Alien Dark Descent is a game that dares to venture into the world of the Alien franchise. Now, the movies have had their fair share of games, some real gems and others that are utter gank. So today we're here to see if Alien Dark Descent manages to achieve its goal as a proper horror real-time strategy game, or if it leaves you wanting to be munched on by a facehugger. And let me tell you lads, playing Alien Dark Descent feels like smashing a home run in the 9th inning of the World Series, only to have it called a foul ball. Sound confusing? Well, grab yourself a cuppa and let Reggie break it down for you in today's review. Alien Dark Descent is a unique game then. Here we have ourselves an isometric real-time strategy game taking a bit of inspiration from the likes of XCOM. In this game you're in control of a bunch of proper meatheads and your goal is to complete all sorts of objectives spread out on a map spanning multiple floors. Just like XCOM, if one of your blokes snuffs it, it's permanent. You'll be bawling your eyes out when you lose a clever bugger in battle. See, just like XCOM, your soldiers can get promoted and upgraded based on how well they perform in the thick of combat. So you end up having some real crucial warriors here as you make your way through the latter stages of the game. But here's the twist, me old mucko, unlike XCOM, this game is real time, meaning the action never stops, other than the ability to slow down time with the press of a spacebar. You're always on the back foot, fighting off swarms of bloody xenomorphs or legging it back to your armoured vehicle like a scared little kitten. Unfortunately though, the map design and structure make it feel less about clever tactics and more about unloading as much firepower as possible. But we'll get into that in a bit, won't we? Let's talk story then. Now, I won't ruin it for you, but let's just say it does a proper job explaining how the aliens end up where they do and how they take over a ship. So with the stage set, you take control of a squad of tough blokes and blokettes, the sort you would find in a London East End pub on a Friday night. You go about saving colonists, finding data files or peeking at cameras like a right creepy bugger, trying to uncover the Queen's nest and give her a good slap. And what's a genius move is how the map is ever persistent. Instead of your typical missions like in other RTS games, these are considered expeditions. Each one represents a vast and expansive map spanning multiple floors with a bunch of missions that you can tackle in any order you fancy. You can dip in and out of expeditions as you please, taking on little objectives along the way before heading back to HQ. And when you finally complete an expedition, a whole new map opens up. But that's not all, my Padawans. Once you ain't busy with your objectives, you can scrounge around the map for useful items to help your squad. So things like resources to upgrade armour, health kits, or shiny new weaponry like the sentry gun. But here's the real beauty of it. Once you extract your squad out of an expedition, everything else remains just as you left it when you come back. The same sentry guns you put in place, the doors you might have welded shut, and of course the progress you made on a particular objective. And when you return to your main HQ, you can use the resources you gathered to make your team even stronger. But here's the catch. You gotta wait a game day before redeploying, a bit like taking a turn in a game like Civilization or Total War. But be careful, because the longer you wait before deployment, the worse the planet infestation gets. It's like a ticking timer. And that ain't all, me old China. Every time a day passes, you usually get a moral decision thrown at you, as if deciding between your favourite child. It can have all sorts of impact on your team, like losing resources but gaining morale, or ramping up the planet infestation by a notch, but in return you might get an extra member for your team. Think of it like the choices in Frostpunk, where you got to weigh the risks and rewards. Now, I got to admit, all this stuff I've just mentioned, it gets me blood pumping like Rocco Siffredi in a cheerleader's changing room. The time pressure, gathering resources, and that risk reward element all adds to the pressures you feel leading the group of chavs, rednecks for you Americans, bogans for you Australians. But then we come to the combat, and let's just say things get a mixed response from Reggie. In Alien Dark Descent, you don't control each individual bloke or blokette in your four-man squad separately. Instead, they move as a unit. One click of the mouse and they march around all sneaky-like, making it harder for aliens to spot you. You can see it with that circle popping up around you, visualising their detection range. Or if you double-click, you can leg it like a madman, but be warned, it's a surefire way to get aliens sniffing out your location. And once they catch on, the xenomorphs will attack, usually in groups like the Los Angeles Police Department, and that's when the hunt begins. Up there at the top right corner of the screen, you got yourself a countdown showing you just how much trouble you're in. The more you get hunted, the angrier the aliens get, and the timeline slowly shifts to the right until something big happens, like a super strong xenomorph being unleashed, or an onslaught mode where you've got a mere 30 seconds to prep your troops before a mountain of aliens head your way. So far so good, innit? But for Reggie, the weakest point of all is the actual shooting. There ain't no tactical finesse here. In fact, just plonk down 4 sentry guns and you're almost always guaranteed to win a fight. Upgrade them to bad boy status and you're set for life. Aliens don't attack with any smarts, they just sort of charge straight into the gunfire, clumsily clipping through you and randomly slashing at everyone on your team, where you will remain either unscathed or you'll get utterly obliterated. Now, in the iconic Alien films, there's that scene where the squad gets attacked and picked off one by one, right? Well, in this game, it's like we've been stripped of all the strategic thinking. There ain't no using of cover in effective ways, even in the latter parts of the game where it's not just aliens that attack you. And when cover is needed, the game guides and directs you exactly how you should take it. Look at the outside scene here, where I'm unable to use cover with any of the surrounding environment. But alas, look here lads, I can cover with this particular object. I wonder if that means I'm about to get attacked. Bet your bloody bottom dollar it does, people. All surprise and tactical nuance is therefore taken away from your own decision making, and the angles mean little to get an advantage, and rarely do you need to worry about how the aliens might stalk you, as they very quickly become predictable in nature. All the effort the game puts in bringing the Alien franchise to life, and by the way, it does it bloody well, is lost in its most crucial aspect, the combat. Now I get it, these are different games, but when I look back at Alien Isolation, it nailed the atmosphere and tone. The alien in that game, however, it felt like a real threat, something that could outmaneuver you, a bloody terrifying creature that you did not want to come across. But here, they just feel like easy targets. And it's strange, innit? Because in a franchise where claustrophobia is a key ingredient for creating atmosphere, here it actually works against the game's purpose. The chaotic choke points lead aliens straight into your bullets. And don't get me started on managing the stress levels of your soldiers. If they get too stressed, they suffer all sorts of debuffs, like worse accuracy or slower reload times. But at the same time, it almost seems a bit overplayed, and it could do with some tweaking here. Now, as I mentioned earlier, your squad can be upgraded the more you use them. In the barracks, they can use the XP they've earned to specialise in different roles, like being a tech guru to hack computers, or they can specialise as a gunner, opening up more weapons. And on top of that, you can spend your precious resources to give better gear and weaponry, which you definitely need for the later missions. It's a great system, and it feels proper good when you come back with your crew all beefed up. But here's the thing, many of them skills feel a bit wasted when the combat is so wonky and haphazard. As for graphics, it's a bloody sterling effort. I gotta say, it fits right in with the Alien lore. The weather effects add to the atmosphere, with stormy snow and fog floating about the map. Inside the buildings, you got your proper corrugated panelling, metal walls and steel doors, all lifted from the movies. Now, I wouldn't go as far as calling it a beautiful looking game, because you do see a fair bit of reused assets, but it certainly is pleasing to the eye for the most part. But there's one thing that got me right down in the dumps, and that's the lack of dynamic lighting. Yes, there is a torch that you can use, but other than that, there's very little occasion where we see flickering lights or red siren lights spinning around to add that dramatic shadowy effect to a scene. Again, it's something Alien Isolation nailed down, but here it feels like a bit of a missed opportunity. Most of the lighting feels static or baked into walls. Now, I can't show it here because the copyright gods would have my guts for garter, but go on YouTube right now and search for Ripley Encounters the Xenomorph scene, uploaded by Kyle H. Take a look at that scene, lads and lasses. Notice them shadows dripping everywhere, and notice the flickering lights. Everything in Alien Dark Descent nails the environments, but the lighting is just way off. Now let's tackle the animations, and sadly is a bit of a miss here too. Aliens in general move fine, I suppose, but once they get close to your squad, it all becomes a bit chaotic and janky. And speaking of my squad, take a look here as they move through the alien infested maps, unsure of what lurks around the bloody corner, with death staring at them at every turn. But you know what? Them lot never look once over their bloody shoulder, and when they enter a room, they just blindly walk right in. It's another missed opportunity if you ask me, given the fact that developers chose the path of having you navigate a squad instead of individual characters. There was a chance here for it to all look so slick, terrifying and bloody cool as as you cleared rooms. And I can't move on without mentioning visual glitches and bugs. Even my mighty 4080 could stutter at times, especially when cutscenes were loading in, and I found visual glitches where wounded soldiers would be floating next to the bloke carrying them like some bloody ghost. I've had soldiers get stuck by vehicles or simply stuck on crates. And the worst of all was when I finally completed a mission after slogging away for 25 minutes or so, and the game decides to crash right before the checkpoint. Now, I know that sounded like a right old rant about the graphical department, but trust me, it's very good as it is. It just lacks that extra polish, and there are loads of missed opportunities where it could have been truly glorious. Now, let me tell you, where Alien Dark Descent really shines is in its sound department. It's a fantastic showing, and if you ask me, it's what brings us right back to the essence of the Alien franchise. You got that gentle hum of the ship's electricity, or the sounds of the weather outside. The music kicks in at just the right moments, especially when aliens are launching an all-out assault, and the weapons sound exactly like they do in the movies with that clickety sound from the rifles. And as you start taking care of things and things settle back down, the music fades away and you're left with that classic motion tracker sound. Now, that's arguably the most iconic of all movie sound effects, and here it is used beautifully. It highlights the precariousness of your situation. You got that ping going on showing you the location of the aliens, and you can see them getting closer to you on the tracker like a fly to shit. It's absolutely blinding at building up the atmosphere, and for the most part everything in this department is spot on. But then we come to the crew talking, and that's where it all goes a bit pear-shaped for Reggie. It's not that they're acted poorly, although there are some cringeworthy moments, don't get me wrong. It's just that they're trying to be all B-movie Starship Trooper style with their dialogue. Now, I know in the original films we had lines like "Game over, man" and all that bollocks, but here they've gone overboard with it. They've forgotten about the subtlety of the Alien franchise, the silence, the quiet moments of sheer terror. Let me give you an example. We're sneaking around the map, being all quiet like, moving our troops around with aliens stalking us, Bill Crosby style. But do our troops whisper or use hand signals or even try to keep quiet? Nah, instead they're shouting things out like "Hurry up, you slugs," and "Double time," as if an abusive husband is walking back his drunk wife from the pub. There's bloody aliens right outside the door, you fucking idiots, and you don't give a f***. The atmosphere here then could have been so much better if they just focused on the subtlety instead of being brash and shouty 100 miles bloody per hour. It would have made the chaotic moments feel even more chaotic. Make no mistake, boys and girls, Alien Dark Descent is a bloody big win in many respects. It's got the lore, the visuals, and the sound is for the most part spot on. What it does well, it does bloody well, and in a time when games are charging $70, this one gives you excellent value for just $40. But where it struggles is in nailing the combat. It lacks that strategic thinking you find in a game like XCOM, and I gotta say, a part of me reckons Alien Dark Descent might have been better suited for that style. Gears Tactics showed us how it can be done, even with an action-orientated theme. But there are moments in Dark Descent that it just misses the mark, but gets so close to it. Whether it's the lack of dynamic lighting or the cringe-inducing script, it never quite reaches the horror level it so desperately wants to achieve. But all in all, it's a jolly good RTS shooter, and if there's one thing that truly makes Reggie happy, it's that it feels like a proper Alien game, and it does the franchise proud. And with that, my lovelies, lots of love to you all. Reggie out.